Welcome to Deal Nation. We're joined today by Christian Weatherspoon, the president of Real Estate Investing Made Easy. How are you, Christian?
Doing great, Michael. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man, it's great to have you on. We've known each other for years. You've been really deeply involved with the launch control community for a long time. We're getting into, obviously, with the release of Deal Nation, we're really getting into the podcast space and the education space. But and you were making YouTube videos about launch control before we were making YouTube videos about launch control. So, you've been definitely friend of the family, friend of the show for a long time.
Yeah, man, it's great. I just find a tool that works and I'll do a deep dive, pick everything apart too. Your support team knows that, by the way, but it works fantastically. Things are looking up and I just want to put that content out there for other investors. So that's why I love this podcast that you've put together to educate other investors to just have these light bulb moments go off. So thanks for putting this together, man, and inviting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do appreciate how detail oriented you've always been, just really, really digging into it. And we'll get into a couple of the things that we discussed pre-show, really breaking down markets and some of the data that you can use to. And I know what you guys help people do at Real Estate Investing Made Easy is to do everything they need, empower them with everything they need to go from data to deals. And some examples that you've shown of just really diving into the research and getting into the specifics in order to optimize profitability. What you guys are doing is very detail oriented, very to the point. So we'll get to some of that, but I do want to give people some background information just about how you got involved in real estate investment, your kind of evolution up to the point where you are now, which is you've got a CRM and you've got a coaching program and you're running your own real estate business. So give us kind of a quick hop, skip, and a jump up to where we are now.
I love it. I'll try to be brief. I started in 2008 being exposed to real estate investing on the agent side. I was doing loan mods. We all know what happened after that. 2009, I linked up with a company and they were a real estate education company, one of the largest in the country for a long time. They kind of fizzled out in terms of popularity in 2020. And that's really when I exited that company and started Real Estate Investing Made Easy. So really hop, skip, and a jump. But during my time there, I developed a passion for the investment side. And it wasn't just the agent side. I did video production, as maybe you're able to see, like I have these cameras and stuff. And I just took that and I ran with it on the education side for Real Estate Investing Made Easy, creating content to help educate other investors or other would-be investors. And we're also flipping, of course, properties as well as wholesaling nationwide. And then we realized, oh, we should probably create a CRM. That's another conversation in and of itself. But we did so because of the genesis of AI, voice AI, and to nurture leads and things like that. And it's been great so far. The technology is still getting better. But my partner, Chris Deal, and I have just fell in love with marketing and getting into the data about it, specifically me. So anytime I talk about data, I got to put my data glasses on. And we have a good time because it makes us more money, right? It does when you focus your attention there. So I'm excited to talk about that piece as well.
Yeah, and I definitely want to dive into the AI bit. I know that that's something that the listeners are very much interested in. I am curious on a personal level though, because I think that a lot of times investors are interested in taking several different parallel paths when it comes to building their business and scaling things up. So you've been really interested in and proficient at the media side of things since the beginning. You're dipping your toes into the CRM world. Data has been something that you've kind of been curious about and chased after. How do you find balance with all of the things that you want to pursue so that you're able to actually profit from them and not get too far afield chasing one thing or another?
From a newer investor standpoint, the answer is don't. Focus on one thing at a time. From a scale standpoint, the answer is hire slow, hire correctly, and fire quickly. And it all centers around culture, but it begins with making sure your hiring process is in lockstep with your culture and that you are vetting people that you're working with very well.
So, for instance, like with your real estate investment business, you want to make sure that you have all of the staff necessary in place for it to maybe not run on autopilot, but at least semi autopilot before you start diving down media roads or a data business or a CRM business or something like that.
The foundation of what we do is the same foundation of every real estate investor watching this podcast, and that is your real estate investment business and the activities in it. So I
Yes.
wouldn't be able to do real estate investing made easy with integrity. I'm sure I could put out stuff and talk about things that would benefit others, but we have to first do. So if I'm talking about automation and I'm talking about scale, which I do in real estate investing made easy, it has to come from a place of experience to be able to teach it. Otherwise, I'm just regurgitating information that I read in a self-help book. So that's the foundation, getting that in order first. So at the end of the day, we have to make sure we scale that properly. So that's kind of my first love, if you will. And that is what, we pour into on a regular basis to make sure that our employees are in a business that doesn't feel like a business to them, but has a culture that really just is maintained on a daily basis.
Yeah, and within that culture, you're talking about doing iterative testing, right? Where you're trying the A version, the B version, the C version to make sure that the theory actually hits in practice, right? So, from the beginning, where you just right from the beginning, even before just from your own real estate investing business, really tracking the results and seeing the effectiveness of finding that kind of honed in path.
If the beginning is 2009, which technically, yes, it is, I was absolutely not doing that. I should
Yeah.
have, though, right? If I had known then what I know now, I definitely would have. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. And why, of course, when we spoke pre show, you had mentioned we should definitely dive into that because it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Those iterations, though, can be cut short if you tune into something like this, not just obviously with me, but anybody else on the Deal Nation podcast. And it's not about the education, it's about the action that you take after you learn, because education without action is just entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just as a thought experiment, and we don't have to, go all the way into what you guys teach at um, with your master class, but I think it's a good thought exercise to go through and say, if you could go back and build a real estate investing company from the ground up as a solo entrepreneur, what are some of the things, like top three things that you would front load, right? Like do sooner rather than later.
Researching your market and building your buyers list, which can go hand in hand. And that is to say that if you don't know your market and you don't know real estate, if ostensibly you're wholesaling to begin with, which is the majority of those who get into real estate investing's path, that way you can leverage buyers to have them tell you what they're looking for and where they're looking to invest and why. And that will give you more insight on the market. So they feed into each other. And then organization is the third piece. That even comes alongside education because you need to learn how to get organized. But if you're not organized in the beginning, and that doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money on a CRM or anything like that, but what it does mean is at minimum, if your bare bones budget doesn't allow you to invest in quality products, we're talking about a Gmail account or any other type, but with Google Sheets, make sure you get some free trackers, search that out. I would say organization is probably, it's up there. It's very important because if you don't, then you're going to lose track. No post-it note callbacks. Okay, guys, don't do that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. One of the things that we really stress at Launch Control as an option is using text engagement as a kind of 360-degree solution for your business. And especially going into new markets, targeting your buyers first and finding out via text to set up a curated list of buyers so that through that text engagement exactly what they're buying in the next 60 to 90 days, that
Mhm.
turns it into just a simple feeder system where you can then turn back, go to your sellers list and find properties that match the buyer profiles, and it takes the risk out of the equation, right? That fear of, well, now that I'm
Right.
holding this property, am I going to get stuck holding it? Because if you don't have the capital to do that, right? If you're not at a stage in your career yet where you can spin that into a rental or hold it for a bit and get equity out of it, and you'll deal with it later. Like if holding it means holding the bag, that's not good, right? So if you can front load that, you find out what your buyers want, put you ahead of the game.
Yeah, you put a timeline to that. I think that's super critical. It's paramount to make sure that you're taking action and you're doing that. Like within the next, you said 60 days, like
Yeah,
get to it. Make sure that you got a good buyers list and you know the markets that you're investing. Stay organized. And you didn't ask for four, but the fourth one is probably obvious, and that is make sure that you understand when you're in that market that not only is it going to be different from market to market in terms of your analysis, but make sure you hone in your analysis.
yeah,
Practice. You don't want to buy a property too much, too high, because you make money when you buy, if you buy it right.
yeah. And there's a big difference between buying a couple of properties or wholesaling a couple of properties during the course of the year to make a little extra cash,
Mm.
and doing this as a transition out of a W-2 or as a way to actually build wealth. Because, on one level, you're finding a deal, right? It's singular, a deal, a homeowner, a conversation. But really what you're building towards is a sales and marketing process that drives a business, right? And without those sales and marketing processes laid out from the beginning, then you lose opportunities. I saw a reel the other day on Instagram from Pace Morby, and he said, very beginning of his career, he had there was like two or three leads had come in, and was fixing a property up. He was like installing a toilet or something, you know. And his wife said, "Did you call those leads?" And he said, "No, no, no. I'll call them tomorrow. I got stuff to do today." And she was like, you're not the only one that's going to get these leads. Like, you have to call them." And he's like, "You're right." Called them, got a deal out of it, and then like the rest is history. Right now, he's like the guru of subject to and making bazillions of dollars. But even he, from the beginning, sounds like, I don't know him personally, but even he in the beginning maybe lacked that sales and marketing structure
Mm.
that equals consistency and results, right?
Yeah, that is paramount to the success of any business, and every business is marketing. My business partner, I've never met Pace, but I know he knows him personally, and I'll tell you, I would hazard to guess that the reason why he's in the position that he is in as an educator, notwithstanding the TV show and everything, is because he's a very good marketer.
Hmm. Yeah, and being very good at marketing isn't all personality. It's organization, right?
Right.
It's having systems, data, and then using that data to make honed in or tailored decisions, right? So when people come to you guys and they're like, "Look, I just want to get a deal," what's the conversation that you have with them about? Okay, well, before we get there, let's get the infrastructure in place so that when you get that deal, we have that phone conversation, you can get the contract. From the contract, you can turn it around and find a buyer. From finding a buyer, you can turn back to a full pipeline and do this all over again. So how do you get them bought into the idea of systems when they come to you and say, "Look, man, I just need a deal."
How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're managing your business like you manage your life, if your life isn't organized and you don't have things blocked out and you're not sure when you're going to be able to do something, it's going to show up in your business as well. So the first conversation I have when somebody says, "I just want to do a deal," is actually quite boring. It's, let's look at your schedule, let's look at your availability. After that, let's make a concerted effort to stick to whatever is within your ability to do, right? In terms of showing up to put in the work. And then we talk about the work. What's the work that you need to do? And then we talk about gauging whether or not you have confidence in that activity that needs to get done or not, and then address areas of strengths. And then look at your circle. Who is with you? Who do you have that you can either A, enroll, or B, outsource to that you pay for if it depends on your budget, right? So thirdly, it's more about a budget conversation, not just in terms of can you afford not to work, more and more. If you have a part-time job, can you have a part-time job? But it's also in terms of your marketing. How much can you afford every quarter? Because marketing is a consistent thing. That's how you get results. So
Yeah.
if you want a budget per quarter to make sure you're consistent with it, I mean, heck, I would even say 2 quarters, then we can look at what you can reasonably commit to for 6 months in terms of an output in capital for marketing. And then we'll fit that into your schedule and then fit your activities, like whether it's cold calling or whether it's inbound leads. You're going to have to be on the phone. So talking to sellers is another thing we'll address your confidence level in. And then analyzing opportunities to see whether or not it's even a deal. And then if it is, to be able to actually have confidence in knowing that it's a deal because your analysis is on point. Remember, I said back in the very first thing to do is getting to know your market and then building your buyers list.
Yeah.
Then being able to have a solid transaction just on a silver platter, if you're wholesaling, to give to your buyers that are already in waiting because you've already talked to them and you've built that relationship and you know the market.
So I'd love to get, I mean, and I know you guys teach end-to-end systems, but I'd love to get a couple like quick hits of wisdom at different points of the process, right? So you just mentioned market analysis and really like knowing and deal analysis, right? Which to me, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that market analysis, you need to understand the market before you can even analyze what is a good deal or what is not a good deal, right? Like the qualifications of what is a good deal seem to me to be very dependent on what hits and works in that market. Um,
Yeah.
so, within that market and deal analysis, what are a couple pieces of advice that you could uh, give to people just, off the top?
The biggest failure spot that I've seen as a real estate investing and business coach over the last decade is analysis paralysis,
Hmm.
over analyzing something and not
Yeah.
being quick to make decisions. And I think it is a result of a lack of confidence in yourself, especially if you're just getting started. So understand what works in terms of how to sharpen the tool of analysis. I mean, you can obviously you could check out Real Estate Investing Made Easy. We talk about that. But if you have a coach, many people that are mastermind members have separate coaches, like one-on-one coaching. That's fine. And that's actually a good thing. But no matter where you're getting your education from, as long as you are taught the right way to analyze properties, don't second guess it. You have to the only way you're going to get better is if you do it quickly, you get your reps in, right? And moreover, get your reps in, not necessarily doing it quickly. So you'll get faster and faster as time goes on, but don't get analysis paralysis because then, like you said, Pace Morby's example, he's fixing a toilet, the leads come in. He's not going to have the time to call those leads because he's prioritizing something else. In your case, if you're just getting started and you have that paralysis inside of your desktop analysis, I didn't mean to rhyme, then you're going to be putting yourself in a position to be saying yes to something that may not be a deal, but you're deliberating over it while these leads are coming in that are deals, and you're going to lose out on opportunities. Speed to lead is the name of the game. Speed of implementation and a sense of urgency are two of our core values in my investing company, Lazarus Property Group. So we definitely would suggest, and I say we as in my business partners and any coach that is also working with us, that you have to be quick with your analysis. And it's a balance between confidence and being fast at it.
Yeah, I went to university at UCLA, and the famous basketball coach John Wooden had this expression: "Be quick, don't hurry," or "Be quick but don't hurry," right? Which
Love
I
it.
think is great, and it applies quite a bit to what you're saying. But I think a question that people coming in would have if they're getting started is what what kind of timeline am I looking at, right? Because I get it. I should work with a coach. I should find out how to analyze a market, but I also don't want to sit too long. I don't want to spend 6 months learning without, as you said, getting my reps, right? I need to start getting my reps, which means I'm going to have to tap into data. I'm going to have to tap into some marketing. So what is a be quick but don't hurry timeline for someone looking to get started?
That is such a good question that everybody that I talk to who's just getting started asks. What's a reasonable timeline that I can expect to get a deal? Usually is the end of that, right?
Yeah,
How can
yeah,
I get in and start making money? And the answer I'll give is going to be specific, but it doesn't mean much without your specific use case, your time and how much time you have to dedicate, your budget and how much money you have to put into this machine that is your business. So let's just say that you're just getting started. I'll give myself as an example to answer your question. Shamefully, but also in a positive light, because you're not alone, it took me a very long time to get my first deal. I was doing this for a year before it hit. And that was just like that was just a referral. As an agent, I got a referral. So I've seen people get their first deal in 2 weeks, not your average timeline.
right.
I would say honestly, from it's been thousands of students now, which is crazy to even say, but it's been thousands that I've spoken to and coached. That the normal timeline expectation is 3 months to 6 months because of that marketing. That's how long it takes to nurture a lead from lead to deal. And actually, I got metrics to prove that even for the last 18 months. So you should expect nothing different for somebody who's been in the business for a really long time, marketing, that it's still taking us from prospect to closed and funded transaction in any given market, an average of about 5 months or so. That is going to take you the same. But then while you're doing that activity, continue to sharpen that tool of analysis, continue to master your craft, speaking to sellers, continue to understand more how to exit the deal and make money, especially if you're getting into it wholesaling, because we, of course, teach creative just like Pace Morby does. We teach the same stuff. We also teach things called a slot deal, sandwich lease option transfer, sandwich lease options. And these are ways to, regardless of the equity position, make money off of a transaction. So ostensibly, you could take what would be another investor's dead deal and turn it into a lead. Or another way to put it is overpay sellers and make huge profits. But those are all buzzwords. The reality is you have to continue to pour into your education so you even
Yeah.
know that these are options.
So I want to get back to that because that's a really interesting topic for me within real estate investment. But I do want to go back for a second to timeline. That 3 to 6 month timeline is dead on what we tell people at launch
Mm.
control. We always say, if you're going to come in, make sure that you can commit to 90 days. And the reason that we say that is very in line with what you're talking about in the get started process is that within that 90-day span, because the purpose of launch control, the purpose of text engagement is to tee up discovery calls, right? We're not meant to close deals via text message. We're buying houses, not bicycles, right? So we want it to be as quickly as possible to get you to the point where you're actually engaged on a phone call or even on site, depending on what your process is for your business, discussing the options with the homeowner, right? Like finding out their motivation, finding out their timeline, getting into how you can help them. We want you doing the business of real estate transacting, off of text marketing. We just want to tee up that opportunity. So the concept behind that 90 days is even if you're brand new, within that 90 days, yes, that is the close cycle, right? Like the average deal is going to take maybe once you actually have that discovery call, maybe 30 to 45 days through the whole process, right?
Mm.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it closes much faster, but on average about that. But the real crux of it is that during that time, you're getting at bats. It's something that launch control is very, very good at. Is it's going to give you consistent discovery calls month over month. So in that 90 day span, you're going to get multiple at bats with homeowners, and yes, you're going to get a deal out of it, but you're also going to get the practice necessary to really kind of hone your skills in that seller conversation um, area of things. And then when you look back to find the next deal, your pipeline's full. You're not starting from scratch, right? Because you've been
Right.
sending out batches, you've been engaging with homeowners via text. And so that funnel, that sales marketing funnel system that's so imperative to having consistency in your business is already there, right? And then you can add to that, you can expand on that. But if you've got a pipeline that's always full, then you will always have at bats. If you always have at bats, you'll always have opportunities. So that 90 days is really imperative just to get that pipeline up and running.
Yeah. I'm sensing a theme here. I mean, you guys are saying the same thing, and I bet you others who are watching are thinking, yeah, I think he's right. That's about how long it takes, especially those of you who have been in real estate investing for a while.
Yeah.
So there's no shortage of correct and good information out there. I would continue to say it's all about taking action.
Yeah. So all right. So on the theme of taking action, right? Like this is I'd love to hear more about this because this is something that I find really, really intriguing. E- Every wholesaling deal, if we just focus on wholesaling, every wholesaling deal is extracted from the distressed property market, right? The common denominator of any distressed property is that it either can't be or is a very, very difficult stretch for it to be sold on MLS, right? If otherwise 2008 Christian would come in as a real estate agent and take over the deal and work with the homeowner, right? So there's this big group of distressed homes. Now, not all of them fit the margins of a wholesaling deal. However, there are opportunities for subject to. There are opportunities for maybe if it's really light for a wholesale deal. There are opportunities to work with real estate agents in your market to potentially have the margins work out. There are even some like bigger groups and hedge funds that will buy things with really slim margins because they have the infrastructure in place to take those kind of deals. So what like if how do people grow to that point where they're able to have that network that they can actually kind of any home that isn't MLS ready is potentially profitable.
So growing to be able to be in a position to have a network that they don't necessarily have to go to MLS properties for deals, right?
Well, yeah, but basically, like, what the question is, like, if a new, let's say, a new investor comes in, they find somebody who's looking to sell, but they can't quite make the margins work for wholesaling, right? They don't want to just walk away. Somebody's going to profit from that, right? The homeowner's
Mhm.
not going to go to MLS. Somebody's getting some kind of profit structure out of that. So how can they help the homeowner, but also profit from that transaction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple things that come to mind, notwithstanding a specific property, right? When we're talking generalities here.
Hmm.
My mind goes to, could it be a novation opportunity, which we teach and do? Could it be that your buyer is going to be a landlord? Could it be, and that going back to the novation, flat fee listing, right? In terms of novations, you usually would work with a real estate agent, but we flat fee list novations all the time. And then we'll go with broker lists or things like that. But with something like an opportunity that, you know, isn't a right fit for a wholesaler, but they still want to be able to take care of the actual homeowner or the person who owns a property, the the way to do that is either time changes circumstances and then you can come to a better arrangement or an agreement on price. Sometimes it's not always about price. And or you just have to let it go. But if you don't want to let it go and they want to sell, their motivation is going to dictate that conversation and where that conversation goes. It could be a lease option opportunity or a sandwich lease option opportunity. We had a recent deal like that in Georgia where the expectations were just misaligned with the amount of money that they wanted. And what we found is through a different type of analysis, we could just sign a lease option agreement and then sandwich it and sign another lease option agreement, get what's ostensibly a wholesale fee. So we get a little bit of cash now, then we get cash flow. And then if they choose to execute on their option, then we'll get cash at the end. So we never own the property. So there's lots of different ways that you can monetize off of a deal. And if it's a sticking point like this, I mean, shameless plug, we do work with people who are not in the mastermind to help them with deal closing and also deal dispo. And you can check it out if you want to. You just go to reime.us or closeanddispo.com. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of that site, and then you'll see a little entry form where it says you can let us close your deals and dispo them. And then you just fill out the form, whether it's closing or whether it's dispoing. So, you know, I intend to do everything that I can to help, whether or not you're in the mastermind. That's the whole reason we put together a YouTube channel, and also to teach people how to use launch control at a high level before they had training videos, which are really good now, by the way. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Happy to hear that.
Yeah, and I love it. So I hope that answered the question. I hope that kind of helps people watching as well.
Yeah, it does. Like networking can take different forms, right? So with launch control, using launch control, like I think I alluded to this, like we really suggest that people reach out to their buyers and create those buyer connections using text, but also any real estate agents in your area, that because the majority of real estate agents, and this I have verified working with tons of different investors and real estate agents, the majority of real estate agents aren't super savvy with the wholesaling community, or almost have like an antagonistic relationship when they shouldn't. And so there is a ton of value that can come from nurturing those relationships, because if you have a deal that doesn't fit the right margins, they might be able to take it on. But also, like anything that's nearing expired listings for them, they should be coming to you and asking if you can provide the solution for the homeowner, right? So it should be a two-way street. For people that are doing probate, you can even do it to connect with probate lawyers who might have deals that are coming across their desk, and they're most likely going to go to a broker first, and the broker's going to be like, I can't do anything with this, right? So if you're creating those relationships, that's great. And then, as you were saying, like, you can work within with your group and be able to take these deals down different paths. And outside of, in addition to that, there's a ton of, I think, JV opportunities that go untapped, right? Where a lot of times, like if you're willing to eat it on the ego front in JV, there's a lot of money that can be made just by partnering with people, but doing it in the right way, where you aren't just saying, hey, can you help me get this done, but leaning in and saying, well, how are you getting this done? I want to learn, right? So that you don't have to JV long term.
Yeah, you know what? I understand a little bit more clearly the direction you were going with that question based off of your answer. And I'll tell you that I agree completely with what you're saying. In fact, by the way, we joint venture. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And that's to help if all else fails. And we'll give you our honest opinion. And I mean that. I mean opinion, because, as long as I've been doing this, there are different opinions of the market, different opinions of deals, different opinions of repair numbers. I myself have been able to be pretty accurate, not to pat myself on the back, but with repairs, but it was over time. So that's one thing. We'll just give you our assessment. But what you mentioned was networking, relationships. A lot of times, if we have a deal that's tough to sell, we rely on what our dispo process is. And it's a very in-depth dispo process, actually. On the surface, if it's not for sale or anything. But if it was for sale, it'd be like, oh, it's a simple process, right? Like buying a house. But it's really on the surface, blast every buyer, blast every agent in that area within a certain radius, connect with them as quickly as humanly possible to say, hey, I got a deal in this zip code, and are you buying? These are new relationships, by the way, and then
Right.
nurturing existing relationships in the same fashion. That's also what we use the Made Easy CRM for too, on the dispo side, so we can quickly dispo properties and just in mass, business to business, cold outreach. We do not do
Yeah.
B2C cold outreach with AI. That is according to the FTC, not kosher.
No, yeah, you don't want to do that for sure. Um, I do want to kind of get into your marketing processes a little bit and kind of what your best practices are. But I do want to just kind of follow up a little bit on that dispo side of things, right?
Okay.
It's on the outbound when you're talking to sellers, we obviously we want to try to be as targeted as possible so we know what the homeowner motivations are. So the two obvious examples, if somebody's going into pre-foreclosure versus somebody who's in a high equity situation, they're over 60, their motivations, their timelines are going to be very different. Right. So like knowing who you're talking to can really help personalize that conversation. But on the buyer side, if you've done that initial outreach and you've created that curation within your buyer community, and you can start getting really granular, and you can say, I can send you a text that says, "Hey Christian, I know you were looking for places in Oak Ridge Estates. I've got a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, kind of fit your profile. You want to come take a look?" Now I'm speaking to you and your needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I send you 3 text messages every month with properties that are outside of your buy box, and I'm clearly just sending you as part of a mass list, you can ignore those, right? But when I send you something that's personalized and within your buy box, then that becomes a nurtured B2B relationship, and
Right.
the potential profitability of that relationship skyrockets.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, it is a people business, isn't it? So
Yeah,
you want to
absolutely.
get everybody that you have on your buyers list, you want to just be sure what is their activity. You got your A buyers who we're not blasting. Those are the first initial outreach. This is when all else fails. This is our Hail Mary. It is just shotgun approach to try and get some buyer, and it works often. So to your point, absolutely, those more the specificity of to specific buyers, the properties that you have, that's the route you want to take for sure on the dispo side.
On the kind of building up and scaling up side of things, right? We've talked about being personalized. We've talked about, kind of knowing your markets, knowing your sellers, knowing your buyers on the dispo side. How do you suggest that people merge personalization with automation, right? Because I know with it that you're doing some really good things on the AI side with appointment setting. So how do you find that balance between personalization and automation as you're growing?
Well, to be honest, I don't think we've found a balance yet when we talk about voice AI because it's such a new technology. And there's a lot of people out there who are saying this is the best thing in the world. And even though I advocate for using it and the use case that we're using it for is working well, there is still removed from that process a piece of personalization. Before we started the record on this, you had mentioned, oh, it sounds like what it is, and the initial nurturing of an inbound lead. It sounds like it's just basically a, verbal form. And the reality is, it pretty much is. It's a little bit beyond that. While at the same time, we do try to strike that balance, although we haven't found it yet to be definitive and to be truthful. And we do that by giving that person who's received a call after they've opted in. This is a seller, by the way. So we do use this for B2C, but only after they've opted in, which is legal. And then the AI gives them a call and says, hey, I noticed that you filled out the form in abc.com. That's our squeeze page after they click on the PPC ad, and you were interested in selling your property. So I'm following up with you, right? That goes through a script and it qualifies them as a setter. Now, many times we found that sellers, they either don't catch on that it's AI, and if they do catch on that it's AI, the AI gives them the choice to say, hey, yes, I am an AI employee, but I'm perfectly capable of just handling this quick 2-minute call to get a little bit more info so we can make you the best offer when we schedule time to speak to our acquisitions team. If you'd like me to transfer you to a person, I can. Otherwise, we can continue. We found that a lot of them just say, no, it's fine. Let's continue. So the real shift that's happening, I'm seeing, while this is a people business and we still deploy people, that is, nobody is going to expect an AI to close a deal. Nobody's going to give a lot of personal information to an AI, likely. We haven't seen that. We've heard that that might be the case, but after testing it, no. The reality is we're still going to need to make that personal touch. So we have live transferability. If the AI is told to transfer it, it'll do that. Or if not, it'll just schedule time on our calendar and then our acquisitions team reaches out at that time. So, it's almost like in the sale of something. Chris Deal, my business partner, would be able to talk to this a lot better, but I'll be brief and I'll try not to butcher it. That is to say that when you're talking about selling a widget, he says you can have speed, you can have quality, or you can have price, but you can't have all three, right? So as real estate investors, we know speed is important. Well, okay, the AI gives you that speed. You could dial unlimited amount of people right away and then get a hold of them, whether it's, nurturing a lead that's opted in or whether it's buyers lists. But then you're sacrificing other things, the personalization. So we haven't found that balance yet, just to be completely honest. And I don't know that we ever will. I think it's about risk threshold and risk tolerance for the business owner to decide, are you willing to potentially lose out on a couple deals if the metrics show you that you're getting more deals utilizing this software?
Yeah, the line that we draw is we draw the line at discovery call. And that's what you guys are doing as well, right? Like
Correct.
they can do the verbal form fill. That's fine. But the actual business of making that transaction and finding what the proper solution is for the homeowner, whether it be wholesale or otherwise, that requires a human connection.
Oh, yeah.
And it requires, this is where the at bats come from, it requires real estate investment savvy, right? Like there's that the assembly line has to stop at that point. And I find it very difficult to believe that it will ever change. I think that at some point, if you really want to, because you're not just buying a house, right? You're helping an individual who's in a bad situation out of that bad situation. Nobody wants
Mm-hmm.
to checkbox their way out of a bad situation. They want to
Right.
talk through it, right? So, like with our done for you service launch leads, we'll do all of the business of text marketing up to the point of discovery call. Right. So we'll get a homeowner to say, yes, I'm willing to have a conversation about my home. I think it's time. At that point, it
Mm-hmm.
gets passed to you. It gets passed to the investor for the investor to be a savvy investor and work that lead through the rest of their sales conversion funnel. Right. So that discovery call has to be personalized. And like I said, I have a hard time seeing that change, but I think that but the usefulness of AI tools and the usefulness of automation leading up to that is, you're right. There's a risk tolerance that goes into it, but there's also, as you've seen, a willingness of participation from the
Right.
homeowner, who they just understand they've hit enough landing pages, they've answered enough text kind of questionnaires that have come through. They're used to the process of giving basic information in order to advance a conversation or to stage a conversation. They understand
Right.
that, right? But don't dupe them into feeling like they're having a conversation. That's a very important line to draw.
I totally agree with you. That's the reason we have in all of our communications, that is with the artificial intelligence, we admit, yeah, I'm an AI employee. I'm capable of getting the information we need. But if you'd like to be transferred to a person, just let me know. So you're right. Don't try to dupe them. And, we did test that, by the way. And I don't think many people were fooled, maybe in the very beginning, but not anymore. And we wouldn't want to try to fool anybody, right? It is a personal thing. And trust and rapport comes with that real estate expertise, because if they know that they're in good hands, that also helps build it. And a robot's not going to build that trust and that
Yeah.
rapport. Not
Yeah,
at
and
all.
and if you can be transparent that way, the way that you guys are, it raises the profile of the industry, right? We don't want the sellers to think that real estate investors are hustlers. We want them to see them as solutions providers. Solutions providers are going to be more transparent. They're going to be more upfront about it. So that simple little line of honesty that you drop in there,
Mhm.
smart. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And do you guys help people set up that level of automation? Is that part of your offering to help people kind of go from hit that level of automation and scalability?
We do. Yeah, there's a done with you, as it were, and then there's a do it yourself. We've I mean, the do it yourself option, I'm not that tech savvy, just to be clear. I know some of those people on our support team for the Made Easy CRM are tech savvy, so I just outsource that stuff to them.
Yeah,
But it takes, in unique cases for real estate investing, it's not a unique case because that's what we do. That's what we use it for. It takes maybe a week, 2 weeks to get set up and running to kind of customize it. So we have that service available. We also have agents, by the way, and
mm,
I was blown away currently by how well this AI is working for like open house scripts, right? And other
mm,
things that
mhm.
this client, who's a real estate agent, came on board and commissioned us to just create all these other scripts, these AI bots to place these calls, like pick your neighbor day and stuff like that. I was surprised at how well that's actually working. He called me and he said, I've never had so many listings in my entire 15 years of doing business. And like,
Yeah,
I was like, can I get you quoted on that? Cause that's awesome, dude. Like, our focus isn't real estate agents, but I'm like, yo, if it works, then I want to be of benefit to agents as well. So I don't know how many agents watch your podcast, but hey, we're real estate investors and agents. Like you said, I agree. We need to be not enemies, but friends. And we need to work together because that is going to create a solution for, a larger majority of sellers.
yeah. I mean, what you're talking, like, even getting listings, that kind of thing. It's basically you're setting up using automation to set up opportunities, right? You're building awareness and setting opportunities, but the actual providing of solutions, the actual kind of deep dive, becomes a business structure, right? That becomes a one-on-one conversation, because that's getting into transacting. That's not just staging, right? When you're just staging, people are willing to participate with automation to stage. Right? You set doctor's appointments that way. I don't need to talk to the doctor to verify that Wednesday at 3 p.m. is okay. I get it. Like,
Right.
I did my research. I know who the doctor is. It's fine, right? Like, yes, you can ask me my age, you can ask me whatever. I'll give you that information. But if my knee hurts, I'm not going to tell you all the symptoms of my knee hurting over AI or over
Right.
text, right?
Right.
That I want to talk to the professional for. But I'm
For sure.
perfectly willing to stage it. I'm perfectly willing to give you the basic info needed to have that larger conversation. And I think the same is true in the real estate space, right? Draw the line at where staging stops and personal connection needs to be made, discovery called typically, and only take it that far, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. That's one of the reasons I was shocked. And I guess the way that he built out these scripts, or had us built out the scripts, he did a just sold, specifically waterfront properties, post and beam, an inbound agent, for sale by owners. Okay, I'm almost done with this list, by the way. Pre-probate, open house, probate. And by the way, pre-probate and probate are two different things. He's like a masterfully minded dude. I mean, like, he said, this is what I want. I didn't come up with this stuff. Expired
Yeah.
listings and land. And then, yeah. So So all of those that he had, he said, dude, these are killing it. So I was listening to some of the recordings. They're short, they're sweet, they're to the point, and even so, they are more closely aligning with what you're saying. The basic information, not these in-depth things, to tee up an actual discovery call or a listing presentation in his instance. So the AI works. It's a tool just like any other tool. You don't want to overuse the tool. You want to use it right. It's just like launch control, where I've had people talk to me and say, oh, the launch control is not really working well. Okay, well, let's look at your process, and then come alongside them. And then I say, well, your messaging might not be getting flagged by carriers, but you should really tweak it. It should say this
Yeah.
instead of what it says, right? So it's a tool. Just because you're using it doesn't mean you're using it right.
Right. Well, what really jumped out at me, what you said about that, about how he was approaching it from an AI level, is there was, pre-probate and probate and land over a certain acreage, and like to get down to really the nitty gritty of who the recipient is, even when scripted, is extremely important, right? So
Right.
we've preached, this, we've preached from the beginning at Launch Control, like, don't text Phoenix, text homeowners that are in motivation-based situations and speak to those motivations. That will break you through, right? Just getting a list and my least favorite phrase of all time, text blasting to a geographic region is
Right.
like, I guarantee you, if that same person that you're working with had just come up with a 5-question template that was in no way tweaked to individual recipients, wouldn't have worked as well, right? It was the care taken to tailor it makes a huge difference. And it's very true in text messaging, right? Like, how you approach motivated sellers is a huge differentiator in how many at-bats you're going to get from how many at-bats you get, how many deals.
Totally. It's all about personalization and making connections, even on the seller investor side, not just the wholesaler to the buyer side, because it's a people business and it always will be. I totally agree
Yeah.
with you. That's not going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to kind of learn from you and Chris on how to maximize the people business, how to build and scale their real estate investment businesses, what's the best way to reach out and work with you guys?
Yeah, great question. I think the easiest way to do that is just go to our website and check out this right here. It's REIME.us. That stands for Real Estate Investing Made Easy.us. And you can get started here, watch this video. It's just me telling you a little bit more about what we actually do. And be sure to just follow us on our YouTube channel. You're going to hear us talk about launch control. You're going to hear us talk about creative financing and some artificial intelligence and dispo processes. And we put live seller calls, redacting the appropriate information just to be cognizant. And then you're going to learn a little bit. And hey, if you have something to share, share. It's all about engagement. And that's what I want to do. I want to engage with other real estate investors to help them. And we all together can make real estate investing easy.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have always been really great about that, not having a lockbox of ideas, but just putting the information out there, being really consistent with your education and what you share. So yeah, I would definitely recommend anyone that was listening to this conversation, got some insight from it, reach out to Christian and Chris and see if working with them makes sense for your business. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Let's do this again soon. We'll maybe pick a niche topic and really dive in and get some more details for the listeners.
There's no shortage of stuff to talk about, Michael. It was great speaking with you and seeing you again too. You have an awesome day, man.
You too. Thank you.